Speaking of which, it's Ice Cube's birthday, man.
Yes.
Happy birthday to Ice Cube, man. One of my favorite MCs, period. I think Ice Cube's approach was what drew me to Ice Cube initially. And that death certificate, America's Most, Kill It Will, Ice Cube, some of the best rap stuff that you'll ever hear. Like, what's your favorite Ice Cube song?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I think A Bird in Hand is like one of the first stories I really remember outside of a children's story. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
us as rap fans, I think children's story is the story. But I think A Bird in Hand was the next story that I heard where I was like, oh, and it was totally different than children's story, how it made me go, oh. You feel what I'm saying?
Fresh out of school because I was a high school grad. Had to get a job because I was a high school dad.
Right.
Man. Mad Max
Right.
in the super chat says Joe Dumars and Drexler better than Starks. Laughing my ass off. Topping that says, would Lynn Bias have been MJ's biggest '90s rival? I think so.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Hold
He was
on.
going to
You
the
want to know
Celtics
what? You
too.
want to talk about something that would have been game changing, and that's had Lynn Bias and Reggie Lewis live.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, Lynn Bias would have came along at a time where Bird and McHale and Parrish still would have been there playing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Lynn Bias, unfortunately passing away, that threw the Celtics off for the '90s period.
No, then they got Reggie Lewis, and it happened again. It's like they got right when they had Reggie Lewis.
Yeah.
Like Reggie Lewis wasn't. I mean, he wasn't Grant Hill or Penny, but he was like ball man. Reggie Lewis was dope.
Yeah.
The All Star.
But yeah, Cube, man. I think True
Yeah.
to the Game is my favorite.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
I
we got
mean,
a super chat for '90s versus 2000s type of vibe. We got to check out your page too, because that sounds like an interesting page title. It says Peace Kings. The closest thing to MJ is Mamba.
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, man. True to the Game for me, and
Okay.
that's it's hard to pick with Cube, man, because it's so much. But yeah, man. True to the Game. The video, the approach, the production. Cube was just out here saying things that nobody else at that level was saying, and it was unapologetic.
No, you're right. So I guess like A Bird in the Hand, when you're saying it, I think it kind of resonated with me too because I was looking at what's going on with my older cousin. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And like that was kind of happening to him. You know what I'm saying? And he was the guy that put me on the hip hop. And he had his first kid around at that time. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, he was covering everything on there. You got
He
that. He
was
was
like he
talking
was touching
about
stuff. That's what I mean. It was like the first story where it's like I remember it because it hit me different, like on a personal level. Like oh, this is what's going on.
selling
Yeah.
food that might give you cancer, and talking about being enlisted. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, everything.
Everything.
But
Yeah.
that's
I
Cube,
mean,
man. And that's
imagine
what
like a
Death
10, 11
Certificate
year old
was.
hearing that though. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
People like that, and like you said, at such an early age, hearing stuff like that from rap, it lets you know all the possibilities. It lets you know
Yeah.
all the possibilities of what this genre could do and what this art form could do in ways that other, genres couldn't do. Obviously you got stuff like, what Marvin was doing with What's Going On, but it's a different vibrato when it comes from a rapper talking to you, basically. You know what I'm saying?
And,
And you get more words in those stanzas too than singers are able to actually get out.
and, and you want to know what? It was just I hate to say it, it was it was a Chuck D influenced approach. I looked at
Hmm.
him like he was the West Coast Chuck D.
He
You
was the
know,
younger version of Chuck D because Chuck D was, he wasn't old, but at that time, everybody in the rap game was so young. You kind of viewed Chuck as like an elder statesman with wise knowledge, and it was like Cube was the younger version of that. And he
right? Well, you
had
want to
all
know
the
what?
younger topics too, to back that content.
You want to know what's funny? And you and I have talked about it. Like we've talked about Common's diss record on Cube, like the bitch and you, and the
Hmm.
bar on there that we think is so lethal. You slang insane odds and bean pies in the same sentence, but that's part of why it worked, though.
Yep. That's exactly why it worked, and that's a Tupac formula too. I think Tupac is more like
Chuck
Cube
D and
than
Ice
any
Cube,
of them.
yeah. But
Yeah,
he'll tell you that.
yeah,
But Pac, I mean, he's not here obviously, but you can hear from the force and the veracity and the attention to detail of content with which he rhymes that he's definitely looking at Ice Cube and Chuck D.
yeah.
Yeah, you can hear it.
LP with the super chat says Cube definitely didn't rhyme Cheetos, Fritos, Doritos.
See,
LOL.
see,
So y'all
that's
getting
it.
into that lyrical miracle stuff.
You know what that is though? That's a shot at Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, man. I mean, I think that, like I said, the approach that Cube took and still takes when it comes to music and even his interviews, and those are one of the things that was really impressive too. Looking back at some of those interviews, like going on YouTube and seeing like a 21, 22-year-old Cube in the early 90s speaking so eloquently and direct and so focused on these mainstream outlets that weren't letting rappers on there. And honestly, if we go back, just to keep it a buck, there were very few rappers in the game at that time that could hold down an entertaining interview. Even some of our best lyricists weren't that media trained back then and were all over the place. But the focus that Cube had in his early interviews and the early interviewing of hip hop stars, it's impressive looking back at it and looking back at what that young man was able to put out there and his mindset and the way that he was going about it. You could tell that he had a strong foundation. That's one thing I always say about Cube. He had a strong
So,
foundation.
so I'll say this. Well, he went to Woodland Hills High School.
Cube had men around too. Not no disrespect, but you could tell that that was a young man that had men around.
There was that too, but what I'm saying as far as like that format and that structure that you're speaking of,
Uh-huh.
this is what I'm saying. Well, he got bussed into a white community for high school. And so the curriculum and some of the things that they prepare you for in those environments are different. Like I can never forget moving up into this area. My daughter came home and she was like in first grade talking about, yeah, we're learning robotics and STEM. And I was like, what? And I asked my friend who had a kid the same age on the other side of town, I was like, are they teaching your kid, He was like, hell no, Coop. And I was like, got it. You
That's
feel
a
me?
shame, though. I mean, it's a great thing, but it's sad at the same time, right?
It's very
Andre
sad.
had that experience too. Andre 3000 had that experience in middle school. I think that's when
Mhm.
they were busing him, to those communities. But yeah,
It shapes you some, yes.
those are game changing things, and those are things
Yes.
that obviously a lot of, let's just keep it real, black people have been closed out of, and those are things that should have been opened up as far as like the curriculum just overall, right? The curriculum should be available for everyone. But if that's not going to be the case, there has to be a situation where, we do get into those environments because clearly they make a difference. Jay Short with the super chat says, my alarm still set to the brother you love to hate. Yeah, I love that record.
One of my favorites too.
That's one of my favorites too. I mean, Death Certificate is some of my favorite Cube work. It's like one of those muddy water projects for me, where it's like most of my favorite stuff from him is on there. Not to mention, No Vaseline's more lethal than just about anything.
Yeah. I got a question. What's his most underrated song, you would say? I think that's a good question.
Cube's most underrated song, because we're gonna have
Like
some underrated conversations.
what's like a classic song that he's made or something great that he's made that nobody really talks about? Because I think we're talking about songs that are like, in his canon that people are familiar with if you're a fan of hip hop in his catalog.
I'm gonna go Death Certificate again. I was listening to that album all the way through. Obviously, Colorblind's crazy, but doing young nigga doing dumb shit is a great song. And that song should have been put out.
Okay.
You're probably thinking about more so later slept on Cube stuff.
I was trying to think of something like off War and Peace that maybe we missed.
Hello is that West Coast research. That's not underrated.
No, Hello's not underrated.
Hello's not under. I just love the way he was rhyming at that point. What about some of the stuff on West Side Connection? You think the West Side Connection album's underrated?
I do, but I don't know if there's anything on there that's like on his greatest hits. Because I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
most of his best stuff is on Death Certificate like you do, but I do think it's on America's Most in Death Certificate.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
I
and
think
most of
he
the
is.
stuff on there is renowned. Like I was just going back through the track list of America's Most. It's like, no, we know all this.
Yeah. What was I gonna say?
I thought Pushing Weight was a little better than people said that it
Pushing
was.
Weight was hard. I love that record. You think that's underrated?
If that's the case, then yes. I don't think Pushing Weight was well received as far as like Ice Cube standards. You think so?
I think Cube had a Q-Tip problem, man. Like when Q-Tip made Vibrant Thing and Breathe and Stop. Dope songs. I love the songs personally. But at the time, people were still on the Tribe shit and they loved Tribe so much that they weren't trying to get on what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's probably what Rhymes Like Wait, what that had that kind of had going on. Because it's a dope record in a vacuum, but it's Cube, so it's like you're going up against a whole lot. I liked Wicked.
Okay. See, but I think people like.
I
Well,
think
maybe
people
no,
like
no.
it.
Wicked might be a contender. I don't think Wicked maybe got the love that it deserved.
You think You Know How We Do It's underrated?
Hell no.
I love that record, man.
You want to
Ain't
know what is
nothing going
underrated
on
because they
but
really
the
didn't play it
bomb-ass
or
rap
pump it
song.
enough? And I mean, truthfully, you want to know what the real sleeper is, and it's on
What's
both
that?
sides. It's Natural Born Killers, Dre and Cube. That's the
I
real.
agree with that. We don't talk about that song enough.
We do not talk about that record. What did he say? Terror illustrates my era. Now I can't hang around my mama because I scare her.
That shit.
What did he say? It feels like I'm busting a nut when I open your nut. It feels like I'm busting a nut when I open you up because your body's something to the midnight mist. All weak motherfuckers, give my ring a kiss because I'm giving dirt naps. Coming with them bomb ass raps that make your lungs collapse, perhaps. Yeah, he was on there going crazy. He was on there going crazy.
Yo, he was going crazy on that.
I'm down with, what do you ever say? I never, ever made a hoe stay, but I'm down with Dre like AC is down with OJ. So fuck how you living. I'm the unforgiving, psycho-driven murderer. Yeah.
Yo, what was
That's
that?
the one. That's the one.
Throw a brick and I'm dancing? Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, so fuck Charles Manson. I snatch him out his truck, hit him with a brick, and I'm dancing.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and that was that riot moment. Remember in the riots where they pulled that guy out his truck?
That was Reginald Denny,
like Reginald Denny or something like that, and hit him with a brick. Like that really happened during the LA riots. So he was contextualizing the moment that happened in the riots too.
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons that record don't get played, Mike.
Probably. Okay, I'll go with Natural Born Killers the most underrated.
Natural Born Killers is the record, yeah.
Well, you know what? Since we talking underrated, man, we thought it was going to be a dope.
Like 18 down with OJ.
I see horny little devil in the chat. Yeah, Cube's top tier, man. Like,
I'm gonna go find Natural Born Killers on YouTube. I need to hear those verses again. That it just started coming back to me because I haven't heard it in so long. I'm like, oh yeah, I was like, he blacked out on there.
How'd you like him on Burn Hollywood Burn?
Yeah. You
know what, man? I know he said he wasn't going to do a verse.
What's your favorite Cube verse? My favorite Cube verse is still Straight Outta Compton.
It's a crazy verse.
It's a crazy verse.
That's a crazy verse. That's tough to beat, man. I mean, you know.
I was afraid of him when I heard that verse. You understand? I was like 8 years old or something like that. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, not that guy.
Well, I mean, when you talk about individual verse, you got a bird in hand. You know.
That's his best verse. I'm saying my favorite verse is Straight Outta Compton just because of the memory of it. But
yeah, I mean, you know, it's probably one of the more memorable verses ever, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Man with the super chat says, Cash Over Ass and Until We Rich with Crazy Bone. Yeah, that was a dope record.
No, you want to know what? You're the one that pointed it out, the Real Nigga Roll Call with Lil Jon.
Man, he went crazy on there. Here we come.
That
boy.
might be...
Real
people never talk about that record. I mean, people know, like, there's folklore around Natural Born Killers. Like, people don't talk about him and how he blacked out on that Lil Jon record at all. You're the one that reminded me of it because I went to the other one where he's on there with Kiss and Nas and T.I.
Yeah.
And Bun, and he snapped on there, too. He closed that one out.
Real nigga, rich nigga, go get a bitch, nigga. Hoes better do what I say because I'm insane in the brain. Bitch, I got Rick James in my veins. Real niggas never change. Just hang, roll through the gutter lane. Daddy said let him hang. Cut it like it's butter, man. Skeet, skeet,
Skeet,
skeet.
skeet,
No,
skeet.
that's the
No,
other
that's the
man.
other man.
My skeet
Yes.
never leak. I just rubber man.
Other man.
TNA ain't worth a nigga's DNA. Crazy bitch, I have your ass off E and J.
It's Jay. What do you say? Now she gotta change the God in the way she prays.
Real niggas, oh, E and J.
Oh God.
Real niggas come around. What do you say? It's like, oh man, yeah.
So my niggas come around. It's like night and day. Now she gotta change her God
God
in the way she pray.
But he said something before that. But yeah.
He did. No, he's crazy. You want to know what? When we're going back through his stuff, you realize how entertaining he is on the mic too.
Yeah, informative. Like he got a dope rap voice too. Jacking for beats, I keep seeing that in the chat too. Jacking for beats, he went crazy. And now one of the moments that broke through for me was hearing how good he sounded over one of my favorite beats ever on "Welcome to the Terror Dome." When that shit came on Jacking for Beats, I was like, "Yo, he sounds great on here."
But I mean, that's probably he probably practiced rhyming to that more than anything else. You feel me? Yeah. Like
I really wish I could have heard. I really wish I could have heard Pac over something like that too, like over some PE.
No, I'm gonna give Leroy Green some love right here. Black Korea. Yeah.
It's a crazy record too, man.
3 strikes again, Leroy. The baseball metaphor. You're right, Leroy. There are some great literary devices going on 3 strikes.
Had the Democrats read his plan for Black America yet? They said they were gonna do it when they got in office.
Mike, I'm independent, Mike. I don't know what it is the Democrats do.
That's what they said they were going to do. Yeah.
Mike, what are those? What are those out here in independent land? We don't know what those are. We don't deal with those unless we have to.
I'm just saying, because so many people are ready to just drag Coop because one party was going to read his plan and the other ones told him that wait till after election we're going to read it. And I haven't heard anything. It's been 2 years, so.
Well, out here in independent land, we know that the 2 separate parties are really one party, and that's why we're independent over here.
Rigor Ross says Tupacalypse now, Mike. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like, stuff like Rebel Without a Pause, man. Just hearing, hearing Pac over something like that, who knows?